Hello, folks. Welcome to the 49th edition of Al's Joint. Today, me and my co-host Dennis Painter will delve into the Sascha Riley pedophile tapes that implicate some of the biggest political figures in this country, including President Donald Trump. So let's take the gloves off and let's get at it. Well, Brother Painter, here we are with another week, and we say this every week, but I'm going to go out on a limb this episode and say that what we're about to discuss, we're not going to be able to beat this. They can't get no lower than what we're about to discuss after we listen to and research the Sascha Riley tapes.
Well, I'm going to say a couple things about this. Number one is that the viewers should know whatever I say, it is not a political statement. It is a statement to protect people and a statement to protect kids. Because I don't care what political party you are. If you've done the things that done to Sascha Riley, you belong in prison. You should be punished. And I don't care who you are. Please listen to it on the basis that it's not political. This is human life we're talking about.
So, folks, we have Sascha Riley, who is a victim, who was prostituted by his family members and his father at the young age of, I believe it started when he was 8, and it continued up throughout his teen years. And he named some very prominent figures in our society, Donald Trump, Clarence Thomas, of course, Jeffrey Epstein, Jim Jordan, Lindsey Graham, and Congressman Andy Biggs. We can't begin to describe what this young man was subjected to, but we're going to ask you, look up the Sascha Riley file. Listen for yourself. We're going to have some discussion about it, but there's no way we can fit what he described into this episode.
You and I both have represented people. We've had to interview people before we went to arbitration or took a case before administrative law judge. And we've interviewed people. And you can generally tell when they're making stuff up. And I listened to the entire 4 hours of the interview. And I could tell you right now, my experience says this guy is telling the truth. He did not try to inflate it in any way. He didn't try to implicate people that he wasn't sure of. He was clear. I'm not sure about this person. I am sure about this person because of. And he gave examples. And if people look at this, searching for the truth, not a political side, search for the truth. The truth is right there in front of you. The truth is being told by Sascha Riley. And I believe that's just the tip of the iceberg, because that's just one young boy, okay, talking. And there's some that were killed that can't talk. So we're talking about not just sexual trafficking, we're talking about murder.
Yes.
Okay. And you can't make that stuff up. And if you look at it over a period of time, he repeated consistently the same story. It wasn't that the story changed, because generally if you're lying, that's what happens. Oh, yeah, here's another fact. Well, he didn't do that. It was very clear. He remembered. And what he said he couldn't remember, he said right there on the tape, I'm not real sure about this. So I believe him. And there'll be naysayers out there. That's because they do not want to know the truth. They will not search for the truth.
There are people, as we know, that they would rather keep perpetrating that lie instead of admitting that they made a mistake. They voted and they supported and protected a pedophile and what appears to be a murderer. It doesn't mean that you directly killed somebody, but if you were a part, an accessory, and you knew what was going on, you're just as guilty as the person who killed those children.
Your secret organization or your secret club, and you were running it, you're just as guilty, even though you didn't pull the trigger. You know, some of them were shot, some of them were strangled, some of them were beat to death. So you're just as guilty if you're running that ring. And it appears that Donald Trump was higher up the rung, the ladder, than just being a participant. According to Sascha Rowley, Epstein was more taking orders from Trump than giving orders to Trump.
He repeated that numerous times that Epstein was a subordinate. He was a
Yep.
pimp. Folks need to listen to, you don't have to do what we did. You don't have to listen to the entire 4 hours because it's in 4 parts. You can listen 15 minutes here or there will leave you so outraged and hurt to think that you'll get a better understanding of what this system is built on. You have Lindsey Graham, who he clearly states that he thought, even as a youngin, that Lindsey Graham was gay, which we don't care what his sexual orientation is, unless it has to do with child pornography or pedophilia, then we do have a problem with that. He specifically said that Donald Trump not only sexually assaulted boys and girls, but physically beat the hell out of them. And he had a fetish where he choked him until he was unconscious. And then he would let him come back and repeat it again. To me, when you listen to those tapes and you don't come away looking for justice, then that means you're a part of that club. There's no other way around it. You're either going to save children from sexual predators or you're going to be a part of it. There is no gray area. There's no middle ground.
Well, and I don't have the exact figures in front of me for 2024, 2025, but in 2022, 23, there was over 200,000 children that came up missing. Now, yeah, some were runaways, but so were some of the victims in Sascha Rowley's testimony. They were runaways. You know, who knows what they had to face at home, just like Sascha Rowley was sexually abused by his own relatives before he got into the Epstein circle. Okay. Who knows? It doesn't matter. You know, sexually abusing or physically abusing children is wrong. And this hits home for me. And I'm going to tell you why. Is that when I was growing up, I had two brothers and a stepbrother, and we were physically beat and abused emotionally. I saw him beat my brother till he couldn't stand up. They had to carry him up a flight of stairs and put him in a tub and let him soak till he could walk again. And I got personally beat down a hallway with the butt of a 12 gauge shotgun when I was 12 years old. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We were physically abused, you know, throughout our childhood. Every single one of us left home before we were of age to get away from the abuse. Now, it left scars. So when I listened to Sascha Riley talk, I heard him say things that I fully understood. I've been there, you know, and he talked about trying to block things out, you know, and just the worst stands out. Like he was talking about Trump. Trump told him, look, he said, I'm going to kill you, and then choked him till he passed out. And then when he come to, he said, I'm going to really kill you this time. And that told me that Trump is more than just mentally ill or has dementia. He's a psychotic danger to this country and to the world.
And we talk about Trump because he's the president. But Lindsey Graham, the senator, now you know why he wanted to keep Trump out of the White House. But once he got in, you know why he turned, because Trump has just as much stuff on Lindsey Graham as Lindsey Graham has on Trump. So now birds of a feather flock together. Now, it makes sense when you think about it. Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan, to me, is probably the biggest ass in Congress. Because if you see him at the congressional meeting acting like he's morally superior to other folks, when he knows what happened at Ohio State, that was only the tip of the iceberg for him. He was a part of the Epstein child molestation ring. And it's important to note that Sascha Riley, when he couldn't remember, he knows other folks, and he even has an idea that he thinks who they may be. He said, I'm not going to go there because I don't want to go in a gray area where I'm guessing. I'm only going to tell you the things that I know to be true repeatedly. And he mentioned the fact that they constantly raised Vladimir Putin's name. which was quite interesting because he said that the reason why he remembered because that name has a ring to it, and it was a strange name that he didn't hear. So when he kept hearing it, it just stuck with him. And later on, he found out who he was. But he also said that Clarence Thomas, who we all know what Anita Hill accused him of, was in those meetings at those parties. But he made it clear he didn't know what Clarence Thomas did because he didn't do anything to him. But he was at those parties. And you can't tell me that you're at a party with pedophiles and you don't know what's going on repeatedly.
Well, the other part of that is the party started out also with escorts. Now, that's a nice name for prostitutes. There were prostitutes there. So Lindsey Graham knew that. Clarence Thomas knew that. Everyone that was at that party knew that. And there were escorts. So it was a sex club, is what it boiled down to. And all Trump had to do and Epstein had to do was make sure there was enough of the people there as far as escorts and underage girls to satisfy the crowd. Now, Sasha's in his interview, he talked about how excited his family was. They had made it to the big time because now they could charge real money for him to be sexually abused. And some of those people there, some of them would sexually abuse him, and then some of them would just pay just to beat him. And they paid to beat underage girls just to beat them. It's a sick club. I mean, what it is. It's not even a club.
It's not a sex club because if you join a sex club with other individuals and y'all all agree and you're grown, you do your thing, stay out of my lane. It's a pedophile club. Those clubs are illegal to have.
Yep.
If you listen to his tapes and you don't come away angry and sad and hurt for what he went through, what the girls who was with him went through, what the other boys went through. He said something that really stuck with me. He said that one girl begged the other children to shoot her. She couldn't take it no more. She couldn't take the pain anymore. After an hour of begging, the other kid finally shot her.
It gives you the level of abuse and mental anguish that those children were in. You know, to say that I want to die. They got their entire life ahead of them and they don't see it. All they see is physical and sexual abuse. They don't see anything else. They want out of that life, and the only way they see out of it is death. They had people walk in and actually in front of Sascha, grown men walk in and shoot one of the girls right in front of him, shot her in the head, and then turned to him and said, now, if you don't give the next person what they want, the same is going to happen to you. The very next person in that room was Donald Trump. He describes having to clean up blood after they shot this girl, having to clean up blood after they killed another girl. Those are not details that people make up. You know, those are details that you remember. It's how people can brush that aside for politics means that they are not, I don't think they're conscious, number one. And they are agreeing that that's okay. It's their little pedophile club. They're rich, they're powerful. They say the things that I want them to say, so I don't care. That if you support Donald Trump in this situation with evidence as strong as it is, that means your children are not safe around this individual. It means that you're not living in reality. Whether it's your young boy, your young daughter, they're not safe around this individual because they're saying it's okay for somebody to do it. And they might be pedophiles themselves because all you're doing is allowing Trump and the rich people to continue to abuse people.
I just want to say that it's important for people to understand that Sasha Riley states that at certain points in time, they reported these incidents and there was follow-up by law enforcement. Right? This isn't like all this happened and nobody knew about it. If people do their research and look at where he was talking about at the time, you'll find that even if you scrub something, you're going to find remnants of it.
Right.
So, but you got to understand that these are powerful people. So the media is afraid to go after him. The media knew about what Jim Jordan did at Ohio State, and they let him talk and give speeches like he's some innocent individual. Like he's a good man. Andy Biggs is another longtime congressman. They think they have the audacity to think that they can be out front with this horrid past. And I don't even want to say past because you do not stop doing those things. It's an addiction. The monster does not just get tamed because he gets older. That doesn't happen. So if they were doing it then, they're doing it now.
Well, if you watched the Anita Hill testimony, Clarence Thomas told her that he was addicted to pornography, and he would raise, different sexual situations up with her, and some of them were very lewd, but some of them involved children. The other side of this is what Sascha Riley talked about was that there were pornography films made exclusively using underage children, and he was in one of those, and that he was in the Army or in the service. One of his commanding officers found a tape on another soldier's computer that was pornography. They had to dismiss that soldier from the service, but they called him in and said, "Look, we saw somebody that kind of looks like you in this film as a child." And with another underage girl. And he said, "Was she a black girl?" And they said, "Yeah." He said, "That was me." He's in that film. So they used him to make films as well. And part of that, what they did was to attract these young girls there, to say, "Oh, you're going to get rich. You're going to meet, people that's going to want to marry you, and then you'll have an easy life." And then they make these films, and then to cover their tracks, they would kill them. Now, how many did they kill? We don't know. I do know that part of Sascha Riley's testimony was that because his father and mother had been checked out a number of times for abuse of Sascha, and the last time the sheriff told him, said, "If anything happens to this boy, I'm coming after you." Understand that. So there was an incident at one of the parties that Sasha's dad said, "You can do anything you want to." And the guy almost beat him to death. And his father went off and said, "Hey, I didn't say you could do that." He said, "Well, you said I could do anything." He said, you kill him, I'm the one that they're going to come after because there's already 4 reports." And it wasn't like, "Oh, you beat my son." It's those kind of things I say, and I know. We've listened to thousands of people say, "Oh, I was done wrong," and there's some that were and some that weren't. You can tell by the way they were talking. You can tell by their story. And Sasha's story can be backed up with police reports. Now, one of the things I was watching responses from the Sascha Riley tapes was from another individual. And, we've been calling the Department of Justice the Department of Injustice because it won't release the files unredacted. But she was calling the Department of Justice the Department of Corruption. This whole thing about Sascha Riley gives me a whole new perspective of how deep that corruption runs. We need to purge our system, our political system, of that. And it's up to the voters to do that. It's up to us because those in power aren't going to purge themselves. And if you recently, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have been subpoenaed to testify before Congress, they refused. So
Release all the Epstein files. Let's go. Let people go through them. And if Bill Clinton's involved, he has to pay the piper too. But I don't want none of this. Let's bring Bill Clinton. And I'm glad you raised that because it shows you this Sascha Riley bombshell is just showing you all that other stuff we knew about Trump and these folks were the tip of the iceberg. So now you know why they got to figure out ways to distract us with the Clintons, with this whole Greenland fiasco, with the ice raids and putting troops in our cities. All these things are distractions, folks. And people was wondering, well, no, why would people do all that stuff because they were accused of sexual misconduct? These tapes show you that the powerful people know they were able to get Supreme Court justice in place. They were able to get a person in the presidency of the United States who is a pedophile and part of a pedophile club. They have congressmen who lead committees. And on top of that, I believe that one of the escorts from that whole club, and who knows how many other have married influential person, but the first lady was an escort in the Epstein organization, and now she's first lady of the United States.
I have, after listening to Sascha Rowley's tapes and what he had to say, I firmly believe that she was one of the escorts. Okay. And that's how she met Trump. That's where she met Trump. And, do I know it for sure? No. It's just, it all adds up to, the Epstein Island, Epstein files, and this pedophile club. It was all about sex and abuse, So I have to say, I understand what you were saying all along. I was kind of, I don't want to go there, but I think he's right.
Yes, and unfortunately, we'll never know how many children were killed or sexually abused. And I'm not talking about outside of Epstein. We know that's thousands. How many were Trump involved with?
Right.
How deep did this go? Who else? What other party? Because a kid is only going to remember certain things. I know there are certain things in my childhood that I remember very specifically, right? But that's probably only less than 5% of my childhood that I remember. We all remember, right? So there's another 95% of this madness out there that people experience. Some of them are dead, so we'll never hear from them. But this, it's not only going to anger you when you listen to the tape, but if you don't walk away feeling hurt and depressed from listening to what these kids experience, I don't know what to say about this country.
The society as a whole, what do you say about society as a whole? Now, thank goodness, I mean, you and I are here saying it's wrong. There's other people saying it's wrong. And it's the distractions that you talked about, whether it be immigration, whether it be, Venezuela, whether it be the tariffs, whether it be Greenland, you're correct. It shows the depth of fear that they have in terms of these Epstein files getting out. And when I say getting out, I mean unredacted files, and more information is coming out. And I'm hoping, and I truly hope, that more people have the courage to stand up like the women have and like Sascha has, telling their story, because it's absolutely heartbreaking, but we can stop it if we choose to listen. If we choose to dissect it on the basis of being a human being versus being a Republican or being a Democrat. We need to set that aside. We need to look at this. These are children. It could have been in your children. It could have been my child. We need to set that aside. And we got to say, look, we know this is going on. And if Trump wasn't involved in it, he would have done what he said he was going to do and made the files available. Okay. Clearly, and I believe this, I think Bill Clinton's involved in it. Okay. And I think that was part of the cover up. And what's being said is true, is you had the cover up, Republican presidents, going all the way back to the Bushes and the Clintons and all up to Trump. They all knew it. They didn't want to uncover it. So it could have been uncovered, but they were all hiding it because they're all a part of it in one way or another. They're afraid there's going to be such a shakeup in our government. So what? We need it.
We're going to attach the Raleigh tapes to this podcast so folks will be able to listen to it for themselves. This is something that you you couldn't make this up if you wanted to, and you couldn't repeat what he's done over the years and never falter. His story never changed. If you interviewed me today without those tapes and you go back, you would see that they were identical because that's what happens when you're telling the truth, like you alluded to earlier. One thing I am going to say, though, because they have Jack Smith in front of Congress today, and those Republicans who were, when they say that what happened to the dog when he catches a car, well, Jack Smith was that car. Actually, he was that truck. And but what I reason I want to bring him in is because he started a law firm. They started their own a law firm. Him as a longtime attorney friend, and I would tell Sasha Riley, seek out that law firm because that man is a no nonsense man. He stands on truth, and he's not going to bring anything that's not legally factual. I would suggest that you go hire that law firm and sue the hell out of these folks for what they've done to you and what they've done to those other little girls and boys. This is a monstrous regime we're talking about. And I understand why I don't agree with it, but I understand why the media, the national and local media, is fearful of running these stories. And I understand why politicians are fearful for standing up against to Donald Trump because it's not just about Donald Trump and what he does from him and his administration. It's the people that are pulling his puppet strings.
Well, I think the Sasha Riley tapes and him talking about how they killed those girls clearly points out, at least to me, that Jeffrey Epstein was murdered. He didn't commit suicide. So they were afraid he was going to talk, and so they murdered him. Just like they murdered those young girls because they were a liability as well for making the films,
That's
you
right.
know, and they could name names. So it was easier to get rid of them. And one of the things that Sasha Riley was told was, don't worry about it. Boys are hard to come by, meaning it's harder to get boys into this sexual abuse network than it is to get girls. And so they told him not to worry about it. He was safe. But they had just killed the girl in front of him.
It's shocking. And the fact that we're not getting the media coverage, at least the accusation should be in the media. This is a bombshell report. People need to look at it themselves. They don't have to go into details, but they're not even mentioning it. And that they want to. The very fiber that makes them want to be in the media is that those sensational stories that come around. This is graphic, it's horrifying, and it's something that is being done by powerful people. If that's not a story, then what the hell do we need the media for?
There was a point, and we talked, at least I talked about it, where like CBS, I had some respect for them. I remember the days of Dan Rather and Walter Cronkite and all that. Yeah, I'm an old fart, but I do remember that. And there was a respect for the media. Now the media has lost a respect because they are afraid of the truth. They are afraid of reporting the truth. If what Sasha Riley was saying was untrue, don't you think that Clarence Thomas would be out there saying, "Oh, I wasn't there. That's not true"? Don't you think that Jim Jordan would say, "Oh, no, I didn't sexually abuse Sasha Riley"? Don't you think Trump would be out there saying, "No, that wasn't me"? They'd all be out there, but they're not. You have not just that you haven't heard anything from the media. You have not heard a word from those people that he remembered, and they're not going to sue. Okay, sue him because then there has to be depositions and they have to sit before a deposition.
People get to do research and get information that they wouldn't be privy to without that court case being open. But Jim Jordan, Jerry Sandusky, actually, Jordan is worse than Jerry Sandusky because it indicated here that there were children killed. And Jerry Sandusky could have ran for Congress and the Republicans would have elected him, even with these allegations around. So to me, we have to make sure that people do their own research And there are folks out there who have the ability, there's information in those tapes that tell you certain time frames where things were reported to law enforcement. He said that he assaulted Trump with a broomstick. I don't want to get real graphic, but
Kent State.
you can imagine where you assault somebody with a broomstick at, and Donald Trump had to be life flighted to the hospital, and it affected him up until now. So it's not like medically his medical records wouldn't bear that information. And if they filed a court case, then they would have privy to that information.
And Sascha Riley makes it very clear. He said, I tried to kill him because I thought he was going to kill me. And he said that more than once. So it was a tent stake what he put there, and he put it up there, and then he kicked it as hard as he could kick it, according to what he said.
Only thing we could do is hope that the American people, through their own research, listen to those tapes and decide for yourself. Most folks in America, like you said earlier, Dennis, they can tell when somebody's bullshitting them, right? To some degree. They don't doesn't mean they won't still follow them, but they know. If you listen to these tapes, make your own mind up.
I got a question to those that are listening that still support Trump. How many chances are you going to give this pedophile that's destroying this country? How long are you going to put up with all of this confusion, disarray, disruption, and corruption? How long? And how long are you going to allow him to continue? Because you are a participant in allowing him to do these things, allowing these things to happen to our country.
And if you put those naysayers in a room and say, we want you to listen to these tapes and replace those names with Clinton, Obama, even George Bush and Biden, I guarantee they have a totally different perspective on it. Totally different.
Bingo.
Well, folks, we've come to the end of another episode. I want to thank everybody for watching. Don't forget to do your homework, do your research, listen to the Sascha Riley tapes for yourselves. Don't forget to hit share, like, and subscribe below and leave your comments because we're interested in what you're thinking. Unless you're a far right-wing MAGA nut who protects pedophiles, we don't give a damn what you're thinking. So until next week, peace.
This segment of Al's Joint is brought to you by JPAC Trucking.